Knowledge without action is nothing.
Today we have Coach and Dr. Barry Davis on the call with us today. He is a college baseball coach and the author of Old Dog, New Tricks.
There's 3 frogs on a log. One decides to jump. How many frogs are on the log? The answer is 3, because just because you decide to do it doesn't mean you're going to do it. Any philosophy you have should always have action in it. Ain't nobody going to do it for you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Making Big Shifts by Marketing Reboot. I'm your host Josh Anderson, where we talk to real entrepreneurs making really big shifts and the real results that followed. Today we have Coach and Dr. Barry Davis on the call with us today. He is a college baseball coach and the author of Old Dog, New Tricks. So welcome to the podcast, Coach.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's go through this big shift that's happening recently in your career, right? I mean, you've been a coach, I think you told me earlier, 36, 39 years, right?
Yes.
And then obviously you've learned so many leadership skills and qualities along the way. How did you take me through that journey from being a coach and then to actually writing the Old Dog, New Tricks book as well?
Okay. Well, coaching's always been my passion. And along the path, 25 years in, I decided to challenge myself, pursue a PhD in sports leadership. I was always interested in how programs, losing programs or programs that are struggling, can be transformed by coaches.
Yeah.
And transformed quickly in a lot of cases, and then sustained for years, decades. There's a number of examples, and I was always interested how one person could do that, whereas all the people before them couldn't.
Yeah.
So what's the secret, which has always interested me. So I interviewed 9 elite baseball coaches at the Division I level. They pushed close to 8,000 wins and 7 national championships. So they gave me some invaluable information on how they transformed their program. Yeah. And when I put it all together, I came up with 5 pillars. And that's kind of those 5 pillars started my journey in towards of writing a book and looking at it that way. And then I also discovered that emotional intelligence is probably the salt, the ingredient, the main change, or that kind of tips the scale from being a good coach or a great coach to becoming an elite coach, because you have those skills. So that prompted the book. The book's written in a story, which I thought was easier to read, more enjoyable to read. I was able to inject a lot of coaching points within the stories of the team that the coach is rebuilding, who is also rebuilding his life and his emotional skills. So it was something I wanted to do. I was also given a lot of guidance on how to do it. And I got great advice from some great professional people above me.
Yeah, that's great. I read the book, of course, and I thought it was a very, very quick read. I like the story, the structure of it. A lot of really parts hit home there. But to go back to something you said at the very beginning, like how when coaches come and can turn around a program really quickly, like just think of like Indiana football, even like Michigan basketball, both the last 2 national champions, right? New coaches relatively, and they turned it around, which is amazing.
Well, you take, those 2 coaches, Signetti, and I want to say it's Brady. Is it Brady? The last name's Brady? Is that correct?
He's a guy from Florida Atlantic, right?
Yeah, Florida Atlantic, and they were in the Final Four a couple years ago. So obviously, he's an excellent coach. Yeah. So as a coach and as someone who I think I possess a growth mindset, I'm always wanting to learn more. Mm-hmm. You look at what those guys do. You look at how what were their methods? What are some of the key components that they implemented, and how they were able to interject that into their programs, and what works and what doesn't work. I think coaches now, we're finding out, the guys that I've spoken with that are experienced, they know what doesn't work. So they don't waste time with it. A lot of trial and error as a young coach. And as you get older, experience becomes a huge factor in being successful.
For sure. And I agree with that. And it kind of goes into the book here. It's written around from Darren Blood is the coach, right? That goes through this journey of coming to this new university and everything like that. He's deeply flawed, like all of us. So what kind does Darren Blood represent to like coaches and leaders themselves that don't want to admit about themselves?
Well, I think there's a lot of Darren Blood in all of us, especially me as a young coach. Very fiery, very quick triggered, knee-jerk reactions, not being able to handle adversity with a calm and controlled demeanor, that if you didn't control it, it would escalate into other problems. It would
Right.
cause
Yeah.
more problems. And I think every coach, especially the young coaches, the coaches I spoke with in my study, all of them were fiery as young coaches. They demanded a lot. And one of the things they said at the end was that's the one thing they wish they wouldn't have been. They should have been a
Ah,
little bit more emotional intelligent, or a
yeah.
little
Yeah.
more controlling in how they handled situations that they thought, required yelling, screaming,
Yeah.
throwing things,
Throwing a chair. Love night
punish,
style.
but
Yeah.
yeah, throw chairs, kick
Yeah.
things. I've been there,
Yeah.
and at the time you think it works, but in essence, the research shows that it does more damage than
Right.
good. I think there is a time for it, but sometimes when you're consistently doing that,
Yeah.
it falls on deaf ears a lot of
Right.
times. So that's one of the things that I think I wish I could go back. You can't go
Yeah.
back, so you just go forward and try to be the best you can and build on those on good emotions and good ideals and good ideas, and
Yeah.
think a lot before you react. A little Abraham Lincoln. You gotta write the letter and then put it in the drawer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's great. That's really good stuff. Like when you're default angry, right? That kind of falls on deaf ears after a while. There's a time and a place for everything, like you said. But when you lead with emotional intelligence, that's kind of like the lever that can, whenever you do have to have that tougher discipline, really unlock the growth of the team, right?
Yes, and I think how you handle. I mean, each person's different, so
Yeah.
not everybody handles situations the same. You got to say less, listen more, and see where it takes you,
Hmm.
because you want them to provide the solution most of the time instead of you giving them the solution.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think we need to do here? What is your opinion of the situation? What can I do to help? But
Right.
in turn, what do you believe are the solutions to this problem?
Yeah.
How did we get here? What do you think you could have done differently? What can we do going forward to
Yeah.
improve it? And sit there and let them tell you.
Yeah.
um, you're being critical of yourself. I mean, it's always important, I think, and I've read this somewhere, that you criticize yourself before you criticize them. Say, hey, I've been there. I know exactly
Mhm.
what you're doing. I know I've been there. Matter of fact, I was probably worse. Kind of, admit your mistakes. When
Right.
you admit your mistakes, it's easy for them to admit theirs. It's a kind of a psychologically safe environment too, where
Totally.
they can admit that and not feel like they're going to be shunned, or they're going to
Yeah.
be, disciplined or penalized for
Hmm.
their actions. We've had numerous cases this season where I would have reacted totally in an inappropriate way
Yeah.
that would not have helped the situation.
Right.
Now, I might have felt better, but after you go back, you go, well, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You know how, Coach K would say, I want my emotions to bring out the best of me, not get the best of me.
Yeah.
And that's one way I try to look at it. So a lot of self-talk as well.
Yeah. Yeah, self talk is massively important. I like going back to your questioning or questioning, helping people get to the answer themselves. I think you said it in the book, like leading a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I think you might have said that. If not, the analogy that was
Right,
coming to mind
right.
when I was reading it. I think there's a lot that goes in there, and then, but I also think that there's a lot of misunderstanding. And whenever I'm saying coach or leader, this refers to like a team or a business, of course, right? So,
Right.
whenever a coach or leader, what do you think is the biggest misunderstanding about EQ?
Well, when I asked the question to some coaches, and I kind of got the feeling that they weren't exactly sure how it applied, and what it actually meant. I think it's still relatively new in the coaching world.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily, like, I've been to about every baseball coaching convention in the last 30 plus years, every year. And I enjoy going because I see a lot
Yeah.
of people that I, coaches that I coached
Right.
against, coach with, a lot of knowledge, great hotel, great setting, just,
Yep.
baseball for 3, 4 days.
Love it.
And there's been 68 main stage speakers the last 3 years, 68. And not one talk has been on emotional intelligence. Not
That's
one,
crazy. Yeah.
zero. Now, there's leadership and
Right.
there's mental performance, and there's a lot of crossover there, between those. So I think there's an emotional intelligence factor but they don't use the
Yeah.
words. They don't
Right.
talk about interpersonal connections, intrapersonal reflection on what you do, empathy. That word never comes up. Social awareness never comes up. Control of your emotions, your self awareness never comes up. Now, grit, motivation,
Yeah.
perseverance, that's part of emotional intelligence. Yes, that does come up. Comes up a lot in the leadership. It comes up a lot in the mental performance, in dealing with adversity. But all of that, in my opinion, is emotional intelligence,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just being aware of your emotions, reacting properly to the event, and then being aware of other people's emotions and trying to help them through that particular situation.
Yeah.
And I'm working with you. I'm not working against you.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's in the story. And Darren Blood is learning this
You're
as
right.
Dr. James Harding is constantly teaching
Yeah.
him calm, patience, no knee jerk reactions. It's going to be okay. Everything will work out. And it
Yeah.
always does. It's sometimes you don't think that it will, but it always does. Might take a little longer.
Yeah.
And you also got to be willing to ask people, what do you think? I
That's a hard
think
question for people to ask, right?
nobody ever asks because they have the answer. But guess
Yeah.
what?
So,
What do
yeah.
you think?
Yeah.
What do you think? Even Ted Williams, the greatest hitter in the history of baseball, would always ask after he was done talking about hitting, well, what do you think? What do
Yeah.
you think?
Right.
And we're always
Yeah.
wanting to learn. So I want to know what you think. I want to know because you might have a better answer or a better solution than I do.
Yeah. From your
And it's
past experience, right? Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be and again, every coach, I think not say every coach, I shouldn't say it that way. A lot of coaches want the answer to be their answer.
Mm-hmm.
When really you got to be comfortable with yourself let it be okay that, we had a kid drop a bunt down to win a game and everybody thought I made the call. Well, I didn't make the call. He did it on his own. Now, we talked about it at some
Right.
point, but he still did it on his own. He had the thought process himself, and
Mm-hmm.
he did it, not me. And we all won together.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that he did it on his own. He did it.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me a lot. Like I'm currently reading as a Missourian, Harry Truman. I'm reading his biography, and that's a lot of his decision making was. Well, what do you think? Right. He, of course, the buck stopped there, and he answered. Made the decision, but he was continually prodding people for what they thought to the solution. Right. To get all that information. I think that's a big key to being a good leader.
Well, now that you've mentioned Harry Truman, now I'm excited to possibly get that book because I did hear about his biography, and I remember a story that LBJ, I guess Truman was pushing something, and you would know what it is. He was pushing a bill,
Yeah.
and I think they flew to Missouri, and they signed the bill there in Missouri because Truman
Yeah.
was the one that was pushing it. That didn't get it passed, but Johnson did right before he
That's
passed
awesome.
away.
Yeah.
So I would have to look that up. I read that book in
Yeah.
Leadership in Turbulent Times, which
Yeah.
is an awesome book as well about
Yeah.
leaders. So yeah, I like to read. I think reading is important.
Okay.
Probably prompted the book, because I like reading books.
True. Yeah.
I'd like to write more books.
Right.
But yeah, Truman. That's a good. The buck stops here. But yes, I'm sure he counseled his people.
Yeah. And I kind of go back to what you mentioned earlier about the book about Blood and Harding, right? How important is it to have that mentor that he was to Coach Blood?
Well, the story there is we all need one.
Yeah.
And I would say that my mistake was not finding them earlier. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot on my own, made a lot of mistakes, primarily because I didn't have anybody really there. And I'm not saying nobody looked out for me, but I
Right.
didn't understand the mentor. I need someone to guide me.
Mm-hmm.
I was a head coach at 24. I mean, I'm at 24 years old, but I think I have it all figured out, right? But I really don't. But I'm working hard, So
Right.
I overcame a lot of the problems because I was in the office early. I stayed late. I did what I thought was right. But a mentor or someone that is willing to listen and willing to help and willing to be there for you to have answers or guidance when
Yeah.
you have problems. And it doesn't have to be one, it could be multiple mentors. I would call it my board of directors. Like, who's
Hmm.
on my personal board of directors that I can go to and handle relationship issues, can handle financial issues, can handle coaching issues, handle family
Yeah.
issues. There's different people along, and there may be multiple people in those sectors that you can talk to. Say, what do you? There you go. What do you think? What should
Yeah.
I do, or what's your opinion on that?
Yeah.
And you want to know. I have a small mastermind, and that's what that's for us to
Hmm.
bounce off ideas in coaching and leadership from each other to help each other improve in our craft, which coaching is a craft in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you got to be good at what you do. You're actually like a player. You
Right.
need to be prepared just like a player does.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, totally. I can't. I think that cannot be understated as well. I've done this maybe like the 40th podcast or so. Whenever I ask people like the main advice that they would give to a young starter person, and they say find a mentor, just like literally just for everything you mentioned there, just because it cuts down the learning curve. Not what to do, like you mentioned earlier as well, right? And it's
Right.
just like one of the biggest leverage things you can do to propel yourself through wherever you're trying to go.
I mean, there's three things, and I would say I would ask of anyone and say, okay, what is your SEE, your significant emotional events that have happened in your career, in your life, that really changed the way you do things? And I got that SEE from Dr. Rob Gilbert, who's a sports. He teaches sports psychology at Montclair State. He has his own podcast, Success Hotline, and he's a guy that I've spoken with a number of times.
Yeah.
So I started when he mentioned that on the podcast, and the podcast is only 3 minutes, and he does it every day,
Love it.
and he's been doing it since 1992.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, he's on message about 12,800 and something. I don't know what it is. But he said that, and I'm like, okay, so what are those events for me that sort of pulled me into a direction of
Yeah.
leadership, great coach, trying to think like a great coach? And the first one was Pat Williams gave a speech in Orlando, Florida on leadership. And I never really thought about baseball
Right.
coaches as a leader. I was the baseball coach, I'm the coach. I mean, I'm actually leading the team, but I'm not a leader. And then when I walked out of that session, it sort of changed how I thought about things. And then I started thinking back even further. So Skip Bertman, the great coach at LSU who won 5 national championships, would talk about leadership and motivation. And it wasn't necessarily how you held the ball or how you held the bat and what we did on the field. It was motivating. It was off the field type of preparation. And I actually met him. He basically went up on stage and in front of 400 coaches in Michigan, Lansing, Michigan, basically praised me about a talk that I had just given, and he didn't have to do that. He didn't have
Yeah.
to sit there. Now I'm going
Oh,
into the whole details, but Bertman basically said, "Hey, what he just said, it's important," and he did it in front of all those people.
yeah.
And so I was like, "Oh man, wow!" And then there was another motivation tape from Tony Mason on just little things like you see it in the book about the exactness, like the bus
Yep.
leaves at
Yeah.
12:42. I got that from Tony Mason. Those were the things that that video, that audio tape. It was just a motivation audio tape. He was a football
Hmm.
coach at Arizona in the 70s. Wasn't ultra successful as a head coach, but his message was such that it made me think about how to get people to do more than what they're capable of doing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So Mason, Bertman, and Pat Williams sort of together would be my three. And there's multiple other ones that I could
Yeah.
come up with, but those are the three that stick the most with me, that changed the way I thought about leadership, about coaching,
Hmm.
and it just made it more fun to try to be
Yeah.
better.
Well, yeah, for sure. Now let's stay in that same theme now. So what's like, in terms of like what when they're leading people, leading teams, what is one hard truth that every leader probably needs to hear about the way they actually lead a team?
That you don't have to be in total control to get control.
Oh,
Like I think that you relinquishing it, some of it allows you to get that control.
yeah,
I've asked my team several times, like, it doesn't have to come from me. Like, it's okay for you to decide, what do
yeah,
we want to do here? Here's a situation. We can either do A or B or C. Which one are you more comfortable with? And then you tell me.
hmm,
And then when they tell me and I say, okay, let's do it. And even if it's not successful, I'm not going to go back to them and say, hey,
yeah, yeah,
nah, it's on you.
yeah,
Because I've got to be comfortable giving them the ability to make their own decisions. And I think when you do that, I think you get more control because now they respect you and they understand that you're in their corner and you believe in them.
hmm,
And that's a slow process that you have to build with your team, especially as you coach them from young freshman, sophomore, junior, and if they stay that long as a senior. Um, but just showing trust in them and being clear. And I think clarity is, you can't be clear enough.
yeah,
And I've done things, and my wife would say to me, did they really know exactly what you want? And then I start thinking, maybe I didn't make it as clear as I should have.
right, yeah,
So let's make the expectations really clear about what we want. And you can also have them decide, like in the book, you decide what kind of team we want. What do you want the foxhounds,
yeah,
right? What do you want a foxhound to look like? What do we know?
hmm,
Grit, commitment. I think excellence was in there.
yep,
And I think there is a scene in the book where they're not showing any of that. So Blood
yeah,
brings them together and says, you guys go in the locker room and figure out if y'all want to do this today because you decided that's
yeah,
what we want and I don't see it.
yeah, for sure. So going back to Blood, so he was at rock bottom, right, when he got the job at the Foxhounds, right? Now, I don't know how to ask this question. Was essentially, since he was at rock bottom, was it easier for him to just try these new leadership qualities, these tactics from Harding, or um, obviously you don't hit rock bottom and start implementing these things, but how can you start implementing these things in your life without having to hit rock bottom to make
Right.
a change?
Well, I think you have to reflect on where you're at and ask yourself the hard questions. Am I not excelling because
Yeah,
of what is it? What do you think my barriers are? What do you think my problems are? I mean, you have to know, what are you doing well? I mean,
yeah,
what do I need to get better at? And then how am I going to do it?
right,
Another little technique is, what do I need to stop doing?
yeah,
What do I need to start doing? And what do I need to continue to do?
right, yeah,
And people always say, leaders, mental performance, it's the start that stops us. You know, we
yeah,
can't really. You got to get going. Like if I want to write a book, number one rule would be sit your ass in the chair and start writing it.
yeah,
It's not like we tell this, and I got this from Dr. Gilbert. There's three frogs on a log. One decides to jump. How many frogs are on the log? The answer is three, because just because you decide to do it doesn't mean you're going to do it.
I love that. Yeah,
So, and I think of that like any philosophy you have should always have action in it. It's not a
hmm,
good philosophy if you're not doing something.
yeah,
So action's a big word. Knowledge without action is nothing. If you
totally.
know what to do and you don't do what you know, it doesn't matter that you know what to do. So
Yeah,
it So let's start
Yeah.
looking at what we're doing and what we're not doing, and let's get better at it. And the
Mhm.
last thing I'll probably tell the players when I walk out of there, I'm going to give them the final lesson, and it's going to involve a lot of those things that I just said. You could say what you want, but at the end of the day, you need to do it. You got
Right.
to do it. Ain't nobody gonna do it for you.
Hmm.
Nobody picked up the phone and called the AD at New Jersey when I was 23 years old trying to get a job. I mean, I had to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could have asked someone, but I need to do it.
Right.
It's about basically getting off your butt and
Yeah.
doing it and doing it.
Taking control of your own destiny. Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty
I love
much.
it.
And I think that's what Harding did. He took a risk, which I think is
Hmm.
another mention, like it's another inside
Yeah.
story. You got to take risks, to be successful. Blood needs help. He had reached to the point where, look, if I don't take this opportunity, it's women's basketball. A guy that's coached at the highest level in
Won a
the
champion.
NBA. Now,
Yep.
again, it's fictional, but there's a lot of truth to that. Sometimes you have to take a different path to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And I had to be a junior college coach. I didn't want to be a junior college coach. I thought I was better than that. But Joe Arnold, I stopped Joe Arnold, who was a coach of Florida, and I said, Joe, I didn't say Joe, I said, Coach, I want to be a head coach one day. And I think I can do it. I'm 24 years old, right? Or 23.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and goes, have you ever thought about junior college? And quite frankly, I'd never thought about junior college. So then I started to change my thinking a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, baseball is baseball. And that, lo and behold, I ended up with a junior college job, and I was there for 11 years.
Yeah.
And it was fulfilling, learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes. But if I don't ask Joe Arnold or
Yep.
who knows if that would have happened.
Yeah, that's a life altering question you asked, right? Because that completely changed the trajectory of where you went.
And now that we're talking, that could be another one of my significant emotional
Yeah.
events. So now I might
Yeah.
have four to add, that I really
Yeah.
can, and
Yeah.
Joe Arnold, who at the time was just happened to be walking in my direction in the
Yep.
Gaylord Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep. That's crazy. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. Where can people get Old Dogs New Tricks if they want their own copy? Check it out and read it.
All right. Well, easiest way is just go to Amazon,
Yeah.
punch in Old Dog New Tricks, Barry Davis, Dr. Barry Davis, whatever, and you can get that. Or you can go to my website, which you can sign up and subscribe to and get weekly leadership tips, emotional intelligence tips, team building, culture building tips on a weekly basis sent right to your inbox. But you can also buy the book there, and I'll sign the copy and send it to you. So you'll get a signed copy, whereas
There
if
you go.
Amazon, you're not going to get a signed copy.
Yeah.
So those are the two ways. It's also out on audiobook. It's on Audible, on iTunes, and you can also get it on Amazon as an audiobook as well. But I really would the email list, to grow the email list and get on my email and get the information. I think that's important. And of course, if you want to do a 30-minute free talk with me, consultation, business, team building, culture building, emotional intelligence, that's the way to reach me. Is at my website, drbarrydavis.com.
Yeah, I'll link either your LinkedIn profile or that in the show description too. So, well, as we wrap this up here, by the way, I am now the assistant coach on my kids' t-ball team, so I might be asking you questions about that.
Good for you. Good for you. Just get them running in the right direction.
First base, let's go.
First base, and don't stop on the base. You can run past it. That's a tough teach.
Yeah, we had practice one. Next practice is Saturday, so I'll teach them that one going forward. So, all right. So, last question here, as we're wrapping up. So, if listeners remember one lesson from this from your Old Dog New Tricks book, what do you think that core lesson should be?
The core lesson should be that to always continue to grow as a person and as a leader in every aspect. Whether you journal, read daily, have something on a daily basis to help yourself become better at what you do. You're always working to get better, to be more resilient, to be elite, to be excellent. I mean, what are your values, and trying to live within those values. And I think on a daily basis, have a plan, have a strategy, have a routine, and just be working towards something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, but let the naysayers just be, that you can't worry about what they're saying and negativity, which is something I find difficult for me. But to keep my focus on what I'm doing and getting better at
Yeah.
whatever I want to do. And in my case, I want to be a better leader. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better friend. I want to connect with people. I want to help. And if anybody is not in that, they don't want to be in that world, then I need to not worry about it. I need to connect
Yeah.
and be with people that, like yourself, I want to be with people that are like-minded, like myself,
Mm-hmm.
and actually be with people smarter than me, that are better than me, that that motivate me to reach higher. And I
Right.
think that's critical. So I always want to just get better at what I do, and
Yeah.
and stay humble, and you know and just try to be as good as I can be, and be helpful, and ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. Love it, man. I appreciate the knowledge you gave us, Coach Davis. So thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
No, it's been awesome. Thank you, Josh, for having me.
I appreciate it. All right, guys, and for everybody listening to Making Big Shifts, I'm your host, Josh. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and we'll catch you on the next one.